Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, The Process of Creation. Text, Canto 2, Chapter 4, The Process of Creation, verse number 18. Kirāta Hūṇandra Pulinda Pukasa Abhīra Śumbha Yavana Kadashaya Ye nye chapapa yad apashraya shraya sudhyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. We'll go to the translation. Kirāta, Hūṇa, Āndhra, Pulinda, Pulkasa, Abhīra, Śumbha, Yavana, members of the Kasas races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. 1 second, I'll just be with you. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Can we roll it up a little, please? Kirāta, a province of old Bharatvarsha mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. Generally, the Kirātas are known as the Aboriginal tribes of India, and in modern days, the Santal Parganas in Bihar and the Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province named Kirāta. Hūṇa, the area of East Germany and part of Russia, is known as the province of the Hūṇas. Accordingly, sometimes a kind of hill tribe is known as the Hūṇas, or in modern day, that's known as the Huns. Āndhra, a province in southern India mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. It is still extant under the same name. Pulinda. It is mentioned in the Mahabharata Adi Parva 174:38, namely the inhabitants of the province of the name Pulinda. This country was compared by Bhimasena, and sorry, I'm not reading properly. This country, I get put off by the blue coming over. If I can just, is that for other people or for just me? Because it puts me off, I'm sorry. This country was conquered by Bhimasena and Sahadeva. The Greeks are known as Pulindas, and it is mentioned in the Vanaparva of Mahabharata that the non-Vedic race of this part of the world would rule over the world. This Pulinda province was also one of the provinces of Bharata, and the inhabitants were classified amongst the Kshatriya kings. But later on, due to their giving up the Brahminical culture, they were mentioned as Malechas, just as those who are not followers of the Islamic culture are called Kafirs, and those who are not followers of the Christian culture are called heathens. Abhīra. This name also appears in the Mahabharata, both in the Shobha Parva and Bhishma Parva. It is mentioned that this province was situated on the river Saraswati in Sindh. The modern Sindh province formerly extended on the other side of the Arabian Sea, and all the inhabitants of that province were known as Abhīras. They were under the domination of Maharaja Yudhishthira, and according to the statements of Markandeya, the Malechas of this part of the world would also rule over Bharat. Later on, this proved to be true, as in the case of the Pulindas. On behalf of the Pulindas, Alexander the Great conquered India and on behalf of the Abhīras, Muhammad Ghori conquered India. These Abhīras were also formerly Kshatriyas within the Brahminical culture, but they gave up the connection. The Kshatriyas, who were afraid of Parashuram and had hidden themselves in the Caucasian hilly regions, later on became known as the Abhīras, and the place they inhabited was known as Abhira Desha. Śumbhas and Kankas, the inhabitants of the Kanka forest of Old Bharat, mentioned in the Mahabharata. Yavanas. Yavana was the name of one of the sons of Maharaj Yayati, who was given the part of the world known as Turkey to rule. Therefore, the Turks are Yavanas, due to being descendants of Maharaj Yavana. The Yavanas were therefore Kshatriyas. And later on, by giving up the Brahminical culture, they became Malecha Yavanas. Descriptions of the Yavanas are in the Mahabharata Adi Parva, chapter 85, verse 34. Another prince called Turvashu was also known as Yavana, and his country was conquered by Sahadev, one of the Pandavas. The western Yavana joined with Duryodhana in the battle of Kurukshetra under the pressure of Karna. It was also foretold that these Yavanas also would conquer India, and it proved to be true. Kasa, the inhabitants of the Kasa Desh, as mentioned in the Mahabharata, Dronaparva. Those who have a stunted growth of hair on the upper lip are generally known as Kasas. As such, the Kasa are the Mongolians, the Chinese, and others who are so designated. The above-mentioned historical names are different nations of the world. Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard. Could you please mute yourself, Prabhu? Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings if they take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Jesus Christ and Muhammad, two powerful devotees of the Lord, have done tremendous service on behalf of the Lord on the surface of the globe. And from the version of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization in the present context of the world situation, if the leadership of the world affairs is entrusted to the devotees of the Lord, for which a worldwide organization under the name and style of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already been started, then by the grace of the Almighty Lord, then there can be a thorough change of heart in human beings all over the world, because the devotees of the Lord are able authorities to effect such a change by purifying the dust-worn minds of the people in general. The politicians of the world may remain in their respective positions because the pure devotees of the Lord are not interested in political leadership or diplomatic implications. The devotees are interested only in seeing that the people in general are not misguided by political propaganda, and that the valuable life of a human being is not spoiled in following a type of civilization which is ultimately doomed. If the politicians, therefore, would be guided by the good counsel of the devotees, then certainly there would be a great change in the world situation by the purifying propaganda of the devotees, as shown by Lord Chaitanya. As Sukadeva Goswami began his prayer by discussing the word Yat Kirtanam, so also Lord Chaitanya recommended that simply by glorifying the Lord's holy name, a tremendous change in heart can take place, by which the complete misunderstanding between the human nations created by politicians can at once be extinguished. And after the extinction of the fire of misunderstanding, other prophets will follow. The destination is to go back home, back to Godhead, as we have already several times discussed in these pages. This is quite a long purport, isn't it? How many more? This paragraph, then another. Yeah, okay, we'll be right. According to the cult of devotion, generally known as the Vaishnava cult, there is no bar against anyone advancing in the matter of God realization. A Vaishnava is powerful enough to turn into a Vaishnava, even a Kirāta, and so on, as above mentioned. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, it is said by the Lord that there is no bar to becoming a devotee of the Lord, even for those who are low-born, or women, Shudras, or Vaishyas. And by becoming a devotee, everyone is eligible to return home back to Godhead. The only qualification is that one takes shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord who has thorough knowledge in the transcendental science of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Anyone from any part of the world who becomes well conversant in the science of Krishna becomes a pure devotee and a spiritual master for the general mass of people, and may reclaim them by purification of heart. Though a person be even the most sinful man, he can at once be purified by systematic contact with a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava, therefore, can accept a bona fide disciple from any part of the world without any consideration of caste and creed, and promote him by regulative principles to the status of a pure Vaishnava, who is transcendental to Brahminical culture. The system of caste, or Varnashram Dharma, is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to re-establish the institutional function in the present context of social, political, and economic revolution. Without any reference to the particular custom of a country, one can be accepted as to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. So by the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam or the Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world, reclaiming all persons willing to accept the transcendental cult. Such cultural propaganda by the devotees will certainly be accepted by all persons who are reasonable and inquisitive, without any particular bias for the custom of the country. The Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright, just as he never thinks of the deity of the Lord in the temple as an idol. And to remove all doubts in this connection, Srila Sukadeva Goswami has invoked the blessings of the Lord, who is all-powerful, Prabhavishnave Namaha. As the all-powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotee in devotional activities of the Archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple. Similarly, the body of a pure devotee changes transcendentally at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Ache Vishnu Shila Dir Guru She Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Shri Vishnu Namni Shabda Shamanya Buddhi, and so on. One should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipped in the temple to be an idol, nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor should one consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste, and so on. Padma Purana. The conclusion is that the Lord, being all-powerful, can, under any and every circumstance, accept anyone from any part of the world, either personally or through his bona fide manifestation as the spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya accepted many devotees from communities other than the Varnashramites, and he himself declared to teach us that he does not belong to any caste or social order of life, but that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna. That is the way of self-realization. Umagnati mirandasya karanjana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagara Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishwakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Brishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindho Vaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a very famous verse, quoted by Śrīla Prabhupāda. It's a verse of great hope for everyone in the world, because there's no material qualification needed in order to become a pure devotee of the Lord. In fact, pure material qualifications are considered by Śrīla Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya to be actually obstacles. One may be a very intelligent person and have all kinds of material categories of knowledge at one's fingertips, but that doesn't actually qualify one to understand the absolute truth. There's one lecture on the verse, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be, by Śrīla Prabhupada in 1966. And he begins the lecture by saying, after you have 1,000 PhDs, then you are ready for this knowledge. In other words, with 1,000 PhDs, you'll have a very comprehensive knowledge of material things. But then this simple truth can be revealed when one comes, as it said, to the end of knowledge. Jnanavan, full of knowledge. Mahunam janmanamante jnanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva savamiti samahatma sudulabha. Very difficult to find a person who actually comes to the understanding that Vasudeva Savamiti. Such a soul is very, very rare. And as we were saying yesterday, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kastyat Yatati Sidaye Yatatam Api Sidanam Kastyimam Veti Tatvataha. But that rare person can be found anywhere in the world. There's no material prerequisite for becoming a person who surrenders unto the Lord. But the way in which that can occur is actually by the mercy of the devotees of the Lord. In the last verse of the Guru Astakam, there's this point made very clearly, that by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the mercy of the Guru, one gets Krishna. There are so many speculators about who is Krishna. There's a very powerful purport in the 31st verse of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, a very short one. I'll just read it. The verse is, those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Purport. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such injunctions, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. But because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely, without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Very powerful, very powerful. So, great knowledge and great learning, or even great disqualification from Brahminical culture by being addicted to grossly sinful activities, meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling are the 4 pillars of sinful life, Prabhupada explains. The 4 pillars of sinful life. So one may be addicted to these things, or one may be a highly learned person materially. But if one surrenders to the Lord through the transparent via medium of his devotee, this is a very important principle. If one does this, then one becomes accepted by the Lord. Actually, one can never be accepted by any other way. That's Krishna's injunction also. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadashana. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, bow down before him, inquire from him submissively, and render service to him. This is the process as enjoined by the Lord. Enjoined. That word enjoined, injunction, or to enjoin something. Actually, it roots right back to yoga, because a junction is where things join. And we have to, again, join the Lord, become joined with the Lord, united with the Lord. And that can only be done by this process. There is a process of approaching the Lord, just as there is a process to get access to anyone really. In human society, it's called civility, politeness, etiquette. Anyone if you want to get access to anyone, especially as you go up the hierarchy of human society, to get access to someone involves protocol. It involves the following of etiquettes and procedures. So what to speak of approaching the Supreme Being? The Supreme Being is covered by his internal potency of Yoga Maya. That's explained very nicely in the 7th chapter. There's a series of verses there, which we can have a quick look at. Verses 24, 25, and 26 and 27. 24 says, 24 says, unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. O Skyan of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by duality, arisen from desire and hate. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. How do we become free from sinful reactions? How do they become eradicated? Well, Krishna makes that very clear. Savadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanam vacha aham tvam savapapebhyo moksha. Moksha yishyami ma suchaha. If you surrender unto me, I will deliver you from all of your sinful reactions. So this surrender to the Lord is done by a surrendering to his devotees. Śrīla Prabhupāda used to say that if you love me, love my dog. If you want to get access to a very powerful person who has a dog, you make a fuss of the dog. You make a fuss of the dog. Because Prabhupada says, why is it that a man is walking with his dog and the dog stops to pass stool and he waits while the dog passes stool? He says it's because he loves the dog. He loves the dog. And no one is more dear than the devotee who is fully surrendered to the Lord. No one is more dear to the Lord than the pure devotees. This is such an important point. And it expands out because if you think Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma, once every 8,600,000,000 years, we can trot that out. 8,600,000,000 years. Who has any conception of that? Of what that's an inconceivable amount of time to any of us. So Krishna vanishes from this world. He leaves Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and he leaves the Bhagavad Gita in this world. But for 8,600,000,000 years, he doesn't appear again. And he explains in Bhagavad Gita that in time, the disciplic successions become broken and lost. But then we see every now and again, there'll be a very powerful personality comes, as we've seen in the life of our Śrīla Prabhupāda. and reestablishes the parampara in a very powerful way. This is the mercy of the devotee of the Lord. So knowledge of Krishna can only be propagated in this world by the devotees of the Lord. Therefore, the injunction is there by Lord Chaitanya, just become a guru and deliver this land. Just become a guru. Becoming a guru, Śrīla Prabhupāda says, is not very difficult. You simply repeat the words of your spiritual master, who is repeating the words of his spiritual master, and so on, all the way back to Krishna, according to the time and the place and the circumstance and the language. So it doesn't matter where we're from. It doesn't matter what the situation of our birth is. Rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, as the saying goes. Anyone from any part of the world can, if they so desire, know the absolute truth. There has to be a preliminary desire for self-realization. The basic questions of who am I? Where do I come from? Why am I here? Why was I born in the place that I was born in? Is there a life after this? Is there a God? These questions are the preliminary desire for self-realization. And if they are sincere and serious questions and consistently there within the mind and the heart of anyone from anywhere, then Krishna, who is the guru within, Chaita Guru, he sees that within the heart of everyone, anyone. He's within the heart of anyone and everyone. He knows everything. Vedaham samatitani. I know everything. Everything that's happening in the past, everything that's happening now, and everything that's happening in the future. Krishna knows it all. So he knows you. He knows me. Excuse me. I'll deal with that in a little while. Sorry. He knows everything about everyone, everywhere. So when he sees, and he says, I'm directing the wanderings of every living entity. So when he sees that we want him, or we want to know him, and simply by wanting to know anything about God, means we want to know Krishna, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So no matter how vague the quest may be in the beginning, if it is serious and sincere, then Krishna sees that. And then in due course of time, he'll bring one into the association of a pure devotee of the Lord, either directly or indirectly. In one sense, it's all direct. First of all, you get a book. But actually, like people say to me, when did you first meet Śrīla Prabhupāda? Well, my response to that is, I first met Śrīla Prabhupāda in a little house in Adelaide in South Australia in 1971, when there was at a New Year's Eve party, somebody brought the Radha Krishna Temple album. Now, you can say, well, that's just a record. Well, yes, it's just a record, but that record had a very, very powerful effect upon my consciousness. And it was all because of Śrīla Prabhupāda. Then later on, when I was just graduated from university, I lived in a shared house where somebody had the Krishna book trilogy, the little blue books in the box, and I read a little bit of that. Then later on, I bought a Bhagavad Gita from somebody on the street. These were all encounters with Śrīla Prabhupāda, with a pure devotee of the Lord. Coming in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord, I think I've said it on this class before, is one of the rarest things that can happen. the analogy is given that a turtle, I've got water, thank you, that a turtle rising up out of the middle of the ocean, the middle of the Pacific Ocean, to get a breath of air, just at the moment that it breaks the surface, its head passes through the knothole in a piece of driftwood, perfectly fitting. What are the possibilities or the probabilities of that? The mathematics in it would be mind-boggling for that to happen. But it happens by the mercy of the Lord, because the Lord is the witness. He's the witness, and he's the witness in the heart of, what do we got here? The Pulindas, the Kirātas, the Hūṇas, the Āndhras, the Kasas, the Yavanas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your position or state of birth is, or the state of your civilization or lack of civilization. It doesn't matter. All there has to be in the heart is sincerity. And you don't have to be very learned either. You don't even have to be able to read and write. I think probably one of the most, I've gone on a little, I'll just finish this with this story. We all know the story. One of the most, one of my most favorite stories is the story of the illiterate Brahmin. The illiterate Brahmin attracted the attention of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya could see that he was sincere and serious, and that he was very deeply emotionally moved simply by holding the Bhagavad Gita in his hands. Because he had this image in his mind that how wonderful is the Lord. This image came before him because he knew the story. He knew the story by hearing of how Krishna became the servant of Arjuna and drove his chariot. And he said to Lord Chaitanya, yes, I cry because when I hold this book in my hand and this image comes before me, I think, how wonderful is my Lord that he has become the servant of his devotee. So all of this is the manifestation of the mercy of the Lord. And we're all mercy cases, and we should never forget that. It is only by the mercy of the Lord that we are in the wholesome situation that we are in now. By the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of his devotees. I've gone on too long, as usual. Does anyone have any questions today? Quickly. Okay, so Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. If we all agree with this prayer, everybody unmute all at once and say Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That is a beautiful, inspirational message.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I'll end the meeting now, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.